Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm excited to hang out with you today. I am at home with all my kids and pets, so let's hope this goes well. So, for supplies today, let's get into those first. We just need any kind of pencil. You can have this kind, a regular, just like number two pencil, great. And I like to have a kneaded eraser like this. It just makes it so that you're shaving, like there's nothing to swipe off the paper so you don't transfer pencil to your hand. Then, let's see, we need a paintbrush. This is a Winsor & Newton size 10 round watercolor brush. So we've got that one. If you've got anything that's got like a belly of the brush and a tip of the brush, that would be great. Our paper for today is 3 inches by 3 inches square, but you can do this any way you like. Some people take a whole piece of paper and draw a grid on there. That's great too. These are my watercolor paints. I love this set. They're nice and vibrant. They've got a really good pink. You can make a beautiful teal. It's a nice little set. Then you need to have water and a towel. I like a towel versus a paper towel, but that's up to you. And that's all you need. And I'm going to get a little bit closer here even. And let's observe for a minute. So today we're going to sketch and paint eucalyptus. And I love eucalyptus. I think they're so interesting to look at. And as we observe, one thing that I like to point out is we've got straight sides and curves, straight and curve. This one's a little bit more oval, but even in this, you can see straight, straight, right? And all these straight lines, these are kind of like curved pancakes. I mean, it's just so interesting. And then we go top to bottom. Bottom is going to be larger as we get up to the top. Now, this is not taken from a specific type of eucalyptus. This is just my sort of rendering of eucalyptus after observing lots of them. But instead of just doing this vertical one like this, let's do a couple rows of it, sort of how we did the wildflowers recently. So I don't know, let's do 3. We'll put one right in the middle and we're going to press very lightly with our pencil. So I'll zoom in a little more even so you can see it because I know it's tricky to see pencil on here. Let's make a light line that comes, I don't know, pretty close to the top. I maybe can put my fingernail above it. That's about all we've got left. And then, so this is us figuring out our heights first. This one will go close to that same height. And then we'll make a shorty, and maybe the shorty even curves, so just a little bit. And we'll see how it turns out. And I like to start at the top with just a small one. And remembering these are small, I like to kind of come straight up and away like we would for a leaf. Give it a little straight line at the top and come back. And as we go lower, let's start to give it some variety. So all of these are also overlapping the stem. That's a very interesting part of them. We're not going to see everything coming out and away. They'll overlap. So right here, let's get this one. We want it to be like a sort of curvy rectangle, kind of, or square maybe. And another one this direction. So you can just change it up as you go. We want for sure want a few of these flat ones and then a bunch of these sort of interesting, I don't know, rectangle ovally shape. This one is like a rectangle but tilted on its side. And let's come out, we'll get it very close. This one may be rounder. And it does not matter, so have fun with these shapes. I think it's a really fun, sketchy thing. You could do a whole page of these, and you'll get to practice this wet on wet technique we're about to do as well. But I like to overlap, like this one is sort of to the left of the stem. This one will be a little bit more to the right. Flat, let's see, rounded corners, some straight lines in there. Maybe up like this. And you're just playing right now. This one will bring out this way. And we'll just do one more at the bottom, and I'll bring the stem just under it. And you can already tell we're going to have to erase these spots, but let's get the other ones done first. So same thing, and what's really fun is the more you do these, you can start to get this sort of, I call it like sing-song, but where you're just like kind of out to the left, over to the right, out to the left, over to the right, right? And you're just changing these shapes for however you like. See how I made these touch? I'm going to bring it in. We're going to have an easier time painting if they don't touch. So that's something when you're planning for watercolor, it's a little different than just regular sketching because you know that when your paints touch, if these two touch, the water will pull the paint. So this allows us to have looseness within, but control still where it's not bleeding just all over. And this one I'll do small then. So now it's getting a little unbalanced, so I want to make sure I can get one that goes all the way over here. So do you see we're just kind of plopping them in? Let's leave the stem a little longer on this side. Same thing, we're going to have to erase, but okay, now look at this. Because this got so wide, I think I should move this one over. So I'm going to go ahead and do that before we even put anything on it. Just a little more space is going to come over here. And that makes sense because they're coming out to the left and the right. So little one up top, because we got to get that one to start. And now I'm also thinking about how to fill my space but not touch these. I hope you're liking it already. So interesting to just observe the different botanicals and figure out, like, just study them and see what makes each of them different, and then you kind of build up your toolbox for when you want to do a floral painting or sketch. So I'm going through with my kneaded eraser and I'm erasing any of that stem that goes through the individual leaves. We're always considering what's in the front, and the leaves are in front of the stem, so the stem gets erased. Almost done. Okay, cool. I like this. I always like eucalyptus. I pop it in a floral and I'm happy. All right, great. So now we have our sketch done. I want you to first make sure that you like it. Pause for a second and look at it. If you don't like it now, change it, because this is when you've got your eraser. And we're going to come back up a little bit because we are going to move our pencil and eraser out of the way and we're going to mix some paints. So eucalyptus is fun with color because I feel like it's anywhere between navy blue to and yellowish green, and that's a big span. So I'm going to show you some colors you can use, and it depends on how many paints you have in your set. So this is a navy blue, and that's actually called Payne's Gray. Remember, to make anything lighter, you add water. But for now, we want sort of medium colors because we're going to load in the darker color from the paints. So for now, we're making puddles on this side by dipping our paintbrush into the water, going to your color. I'll grab this one, a couple swipes of paint, swipe it onto your palette, go into your water and back so that this is a puddle. So these are going to be puddles on this side. I love this color too. That's a nice, really nice green. So you're just playing for a minute with paints. Don't forget, with watercolor, that part of the fun is color play. It's mixing paints. It's seeing if you like them. If you don't like it, you just clean your brush, grab a new color. It's so fun to look at your jar of water if you've got a like a mason jar or clear glass, and watch what color the water turns every time. So this one's getting more into like an emeraldy green, right? And like I said, we can get all the way into like a yellowish green. So I'm going to get into this one here. This is really earthy. Look at that. Any of these colors would be lovely. So it's really fun to play. In fact, I'll do 3 different colors for this. So I will do the navy blue in the middle because it's a little bit different, I think. I'm going to take this one here, and I think we're ready to go. So once you have your puddles made, if you clean your brush and dry it a little bit on your towel, because you want to know how much water you're starting with on here, right? And let me zoom in again for you. Sorry to say it as I do it, but okay. Cleaned my brush, dried it. Now I'm going to put sort of like the first tip or the third of my brush into this navy blue paint. And I'm going to paint the top one. Remember, this is about pressure, so just kind of carefully, we want to efficiently fill these in. So this is wet on wet, which means it has to be wet for you to load in that color. I'm going to do 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And do you notice I'm kind of quick? Because while it's wet, I'm getting into my paint, getting a little bit on my brush. I did not add water because I already have it. And I want to touch my paint along the bottom portions. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, now I'm going to let that sit for just a second. I'm going to clean out my brush. I need to refresh my puddle. So I'm doing that, making sure I get that same consistent color. I just used a bunch of it already, right? And the reason I did these is because I don't want all the colors to bleed into each other. I want a soft, beautiful bleed within each of these leaves. They're called leaves on eucalyptus, right? Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to try to find some that aren't touching anything. So I'm going to come all the way down here. And you want these to be like, if you looked at how the light is reflecting on them, you need to see light reflecting. you also want to kind of see the texture of the paper. If you have so much water that you can't see the texture of the paper, you can just touch your brush to your towel, see how I'm lifting a little bit of that, and then you can keep moving, right? And now it's still wet, so I'm kind of working quickly because watercolor is about timing because it's about water, right? Kind of fun to think of it like a study of water. So I just did it to those two. Same thing. So the thing that's important, I'm going to kind of reinforce this, is that you're doing your medium color first. You're getting it in here. And because that is a puddle, it already has enough water. And so I'm doing my last three, and I know they'll touch some now. Oops, there's one more here. These ones are going to bleed. That's okay. But while it's wet, I'm going right into my navy blue. And remember, I'm into my paint for this. You see, I'm not adding any water for that second color. Okay, here we go. Plop it in there. Now, if your paint is not bleeding like you want it to, it's probably too dry. You probably need a touch more water. If it is out of control, you probably have too much water. And see how this one didn't bleed at all? So I cleaned my brush and dried it. And now my brush, I just know, has the teeniest bit of water on it. And you see I ran it right next to that. It just gave water for the paint to go into. Isn't that so beautiful already? So we are going to do a tiny bit on the stem, but we'll do that at the end. So for now, we're going to move on to one of these others. And I'm going to look at this and just pick another color. So this time I'll do this really sort of earthy green. This on my paint palette was right next to that yellow. This one's called yellow ochre. It's this one right here. If you do not have this color, you could take a green and mix a yellow into it and just play for a minute, see what you can come up with. It might take a brown as well. A green with some brown will probably get you here pretty quickly. The same exact concept. I'm going to start here this time. I already have too much water. I'm going to take my brush, touch it to my towel, and come back, grab some, and move it. So you see I just kind of adjusted. I did not plan on painting this today, but I had the itch. Sometimes you just have to get into your paints. 1, 2, 3, and then I'll do this one too, and we'll see what happens if they touch. It's just that the colors will bleed some, but if you know it, you can plan for it. So I just grabbed some paint, no extra water, touching it to the bottoms, somewhere on the bottom. So I'll try to get the colors not to bleed too much by putting the darkness over here on this one and here on this one. And that's going to keep that darkness from just shooting across. Isn't that so pretty? Cleaning my brush out because I ended with the darker color, right? And I want to refresh my puddle, make sure it's the same as I started with, and it looks great. So if you wanted even more control, you would take like a heat gun or a dryer in between each of these. But we don't mind if the colors bleed a little. You want in this one for the darkness to stay at the bottom of each puddle. And if it got really out of control, it'd be a mess. So here I go. If any of them are still wet, you can add more. So this one's still wet. I'll add a little bit more darkness to it. So while it's wet paint, that's your playtime. And then once it dries, it's not going to bleed the same soft way anymore. So then that's kind of like time's up. I want to get into this color. I loved this green. This one does not have any yellow in it. For me, on my paint palette, it was the third one up from the bottom right. But if you have a different paint palette, see if maybe you can take a green and add, I'm going to say some dark blue into it. And then same thing here. Let's count them. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I'll do 3, and I'll come back and do the other 3. And I don't know if you notice, sometimes I go out of the lines. I am not too particular about that, and I don't want you to be either. I don't think it matters. I mean, it matters to an extent, like if you're just, but if you're pretty close within, okay, remember, second layer, don't add water. Just go right from your paints. Your paint needed to have the teeniest bit of water in there in the first place for it to work. But when you mixed your colors, you probably put that water there. But yeah, isn't this so beautiful? And what I like about this is it's got color for everybody who likes color, which is definitely me. But because it's just these three colors together, they really are also neutrals. So this can be, you could make something for someone who really likes neutrals and they kind of stay away from color because this is still earthy. Very nature colors. Okay, awesome. At this point, let's say your dark green got higher up, it just went straight up, and you wanted some lightness back. I just cleaned my brush in my water jar, dried it on my towel, and from here I can do this. I'm going to press into the top, and do you see how I lifted some of that? I'll do it again, pressing down and just lifting up some paint. And you can do this on any of them. It's best while it's still wet. Look at this. We're going to get, so it's kind of cool if you wanted for highlights, you can do this all along the way. This didn't dry how I wanted. I'm just going to add the teeny bit of water right there. So now we want to get in though and do their stems real quick, and we just wanted it to be pretty much dry first. I'm taking navy blue, but you can do any color that you want, and I just took a little bit of paint, very little water. Do you see that? Because I want it to feel, think about a gel pen. It's got to have enough liquid in it to sort of, roll. But if it had a ton of liquid, it would just be a mess. When we want control, we want less water. Okay, so see this? I'm finding any spaces that are right in that center, and I'm just adding a thin line, and I'm actually doing navy blue for all three, which will kind of give us like a cohesive look. It's sort of bringing them together. You could do different color for each, absolutely, because you can do anything you want because you're the boss right now. Oh my goodness, I love this. So here's mine, and it's finished. I'm just going to sign it. We started with this one, and I love that I didn't even know the composition I was going to do, but that's what's great. You sit down and you make little decisions one by one, and that's how you get to your beautiful artwork. What do you want me to paint next? I have some really great ideas, but I would love to hear from you as well. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you're having a great day.